I'll lead us in the pledge if you'd stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, be with us today as we conduct the business of our community. Be with those in attendance. Always be with our first responders and our military. And we thank you for this day. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Any additions or corrections to the minutes of February 19th? Not, they stand approved as presented.
Mayor, I am requesting that the governing body hold an executive session, and I think it best that we probably have that executive session after number 9, consideration of appropriation ordinance,
Okay,
if that's fine. Thank you.
we'll add that to the agenda. Okay, we're at 5, I guess.
Mayor and Commissioners, item 5A, the governing body is asked to consider and allow the mayor to proclaim April 26, 2019 as Arbor Day in Garden City. And this proclamation would be read at an event that we believe will be held. And do we announce the school yet, or no?
I can announce the school, I won't announce the student yet.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we did find out at the end of last week that the student is from Bernadine Sitz, and we also, that student won the district award, but did not go on to win the state award this year. So
So we'll read that at that time.
we will read the proclamation at that event, yes.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the proclamation for
I
Arbor
move
Day.
that we approve the proclamation for April 26, 2019 as Arbor Day in Garden City, Kansas.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the proclamation for Arbor Day on April 26th. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Bernadine Sitz. Okay. At this time, we have public comment. If anybody in the audience has something to bring before the commission, we ask you to stand up, come to the podium, and state your name. Don't all stand up at once. Okay, moving along.
Item 7, Director of Aviation Rochelle Powell will provide a presentation of the Garden City Regional Airport's 2018 annual report.
What?
There it is.
Very good.
Good afternoon. This is a little delayed just based on some of the information that we get is regarding PFCs and everything. It usually is 2 to 3 months behind, so it's March, but we're wrapping up 2018. So our employments are a little bit lower, comparable to 2014 numbers, or I'm sorry, 2013. We did have a very big storm that impacted our commercial operations at the end of December, which affected approximately 18 flights at the end of the year, so that definitely decreased our employments. If those flights would have went, we would have been a little bit more comparable to 2014 numbers. So we have seen a decline of employments, and we think that's based on the success of our neighboring airports with their service as far as Liberal, Dodge City, as well as Hayes and Salina. So we think we're losing a couple of passengers to these other facilities because they are also increasing in employments. This is a Western Kansas employment comparison. So Garden City is still the top out of the Western region, followed by Hayes, Liberal, and then Dodge City. Altogether, the 4 airports have about 46,000 employments total. And just as a reminder, employments are only counted as people leaving the airport that pay for that ticket on a commercial airline service. So it doesn't account the inbound passengers. Landing and departing, Summary, again, this looks pretty bad because we had 42 cancellations in 2018. 18 of those were at the end of the year when we have that rain transitioning to snow, and we had a lot of ice on the runway that took us literally days to scrape off the runway before we could safely operate. If you take those 42 cancellations into factor, we were about 2.87 of the flights were canceled. If you eliminate those 18, then we had about 1.64, which is just shy of the national average. And then in 2017, we had 24 cancellations. So that tends to be roughly the cancellation average, about 2 flights, inbound and outbound per month, roughly, give or take, some winter storms and everything. 598 non-revenue passengers flew on the airline, so those are folks that either have points on the airline or they are employees of the airline that can fly for free or discounted rates that we don't include in our employments because they're not paying for that service. Our average load factor is about 77%. January was our lowest of 2018 with 71%, and May was the highest with 82% employments going out. And a lot of that contributes in May to some of the college kids going back home for the season this summer. Here's just kind of some information regarding origination and destination markets. Garden City still, Dallas is our top destination. So, you know, we've had a lot of discussions. You know, we did lose the Denver service several years ago, but we traded that for Dallas, and Dallas is still the #1 destination, as well as that's obviously where we have a lot of connections. Then Los Angeles basis, Washington, Baltimore area, Houston, Miami, Lauderdale, and then also to the side of that comparison also has a Kansas airports combined. So that's all the commercial service airports: Garden City, Hayes, Liberal, Dodge City, Salina, Wichita, and Manhattan. Those are the top destinations where folks that are utilizing Kansas airports are going. So Vegas is your top one, with the Phoenix and Mesa #2, Chicago #3. So this is information that we can use to look at where folks are flying to and attract service in the future.
Rochelle,
Yes.
what about the shuttle to Las Vegas? Is that still?
Yeah,
Are
we
they
still
still
do
doing
have a charter flight.
charter?
It actually goes to Laughlin, Nevada. It just went out last week and came back on Sunday. So they're operating that with a 70C aircraft, and it's about 6 times a year that they operate that. So that is still a valid charter flight. And we do count those passengers who leave on that as employments as well. So just a comparison of airports, you see that Wichita in the state of Kansas obviously has the most ridership factor, followed by Manhattan with 7.7, and then Garden City's at 3%, and then we go down the line: Hayes, Salina, Liberal, and Dodge. A new trend: Salina used to be very, very low in employments. They now have quality service going out of their airport, so they're definitely picking up ridership in that airport. We collect a passenger facility charge, so every time you purchase a ticket from our airport, you're charged a $4.50 fee. The City of Garden City, retain $4.39, and what we've used that money to do is pay back kind of the debt, per se, that we've spent on our past AIP projects. Prior to 2014, it was a 95.5% match, so whatever the city paid for those projects, we are reapplying that to that fund that we use that money from. So it's basically replenishing that fund. We're almost through with this application. It should be completed towards the end of 2019, 2020, depending on how the employments go. And then we'll be looking at submitting a new application for either we can collect this money and pay those GL funds back for previous projects as well, and or possibly to put it towards terminal construction. Just kind of at the end of 2019, we'll be in a better place of knowing what's going to happen with the terminal, so we can make that decision at that point. This is kind of a graph to show you that passenger facility revenue. Again, it kind of correlates with the employments. Air traffic control tower operations for 2018 was 16,881. It's hard to see. So we're just a little bit above 2017. And the tower's open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So these are numbers of anytime an aircraft uses the facility, whether it's a touch and go, a landing, a departure, an approach, that's what they count. So, you know, your morning flight that goes out on American Airlines and your evening flight are outside of those hours, so those don't get counted, as well as some of the other operations outside of the tower operating hours. Fuel cells, we had a good year in 2018, a lot of military coming through, a lot of corporate jets that hold more fuel that stop here when they're going cross country. So they consume a lot of fuel. That the city has a 6% fuel flow fee on any fuel purchased at the airport. So that's another revenue source that goes into our funds. 2018 airport improvement projects, we completed the terminal area plan to identify what we are going to do with the terminal project. We also completed an airfield lighting control monitoring system. 2019, we look at replacing the control tower radios and voice control. Unfortunately, this is not AIP eligible and it is not KDOT funds eligible, so this is 100% city funds, which is estimated about $300,000. Looking up to the next upcoming meetings, you'll be reviewing a task order for this project to have our engineering firm of HNTB help us through this process, because it is very complicated equipment that goes into the tower, so they're going to help us with that service. And we also have the beacon replacement, which is a 90-10 split, estimated at $184,000. Okay. FAA supplemental appropriation. So there was $1 billion in the supplemental appropriation that was allocated to this project, or program. It's kind of a new program that was introduced. $789 million remains to be awarded by September 1st. So the second wave of requests, the FAA received 2,689 requests, equaling $10 billion of requests in airport projects. The FAA eliminated ineligible projects, which would include like small hub airports, medium hub, large hub. They're all non-hub airports that are supposed to be doing this. We are a non-hub airport. Wichita is a small hub airport, so that kind of helps you maybe identify kind of the size that we're looking at for projects to be eligible. After they eliminated ineligible projects, that left $8.4 billion of projects for them to review. So they are in the process of reviewing that. With the shutdown, it did delay that a little bit too, and there's a tentative announcement maybe late spring or early summer. So if you guys remember, we do have an application for some of that funding in there, which is $20 million to be considered for the new terminal construction design that we're looking at. The total estimate of that project is $26.8 million. So that's kind of where we're at with the terminal project. Still waiting to hear back from the FAA to see if we were awarded the grant. And that's all I have, a year-end wrap-up. Any questions?
So who will contact you when the award's made or not made?
The FAA. Typically what happens is the DC office will notify the FAA Central Region, which is based out of Kansas City, and they'll notify us. Otherwise, sometimes the information comes from our representatives or congressmen. They notify us before the Central Region office notifies us to say, hey, just let you know you're getting this award, whether that's this money or our AIP projects. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank
Keep up the
you.
good work,
Thank you.
especially moving all that snow.
Yeah, thanks.
Commissioners, item 7B, interim communication and project manager Laura Lofink will provide information on Citizens Academy 2019. Laura?
Okay.
Good afternoon. Okay, so Citizens Academy begins March 21st and then will run through May 9th. We switched it a little bit this year. Normally we have the graduation and then they come and visit you guys, but it was like a 2.5 week kind of time period, so we switched it. So we'll do it all that week. But it's going to run pretty much the same schedule. Other than that, it'll be every night from about 5:30 to 8:30, and if you want to register, everyone can register by March 15th, and applications are online, or if you contact me, I can get you into that kind of application. Currently, we have 13 applicants, and our max is 24, so we have some space left if anyone is interested, or if you know anyone that's interested, they're welcome to join. Any questions?
Thank you.
It's a great program.
Item C through F are staff reports. If there's any questions about those, staff will be glad to try to answer them. If there are none, draw your attention to the meetings of note. Quite a list there. I think we're ready for item 9, which if there aren't any items to discuss, item 9A, appropriation ordinance number 2478-2019A.
I'll make a motion that we approve appropriations ordinance 2478-2019A. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the appropriation ordinance. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right.
I believe now's the time on the agenda we identified to go into executive session.
And about 20 minutes?
That'd be correct? Yes.
It doesn't matter.
You're the expert.
And it was
Attorney-client
Four.
justification.
I move that the city commission go into executive session at this time for the purpose of consultation with the city legal counsel on matters which are privileged in the attorney-client relationship, which is discussed in open session would waive that privilege, and that the city commission reconvene into open session in the city commission chambers at, you said 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
At 3, or
Let's
1,
go 1:30, 40.
Start at about 3 minutes.
okay, 1:40. And we'll have in the meeting, city council, Matt Allen, Mary Carson, Jennifer Cunningham,
Correct.
and is that it?
No, the reason will be to discuss a legal issue related to the proposed Star Bond project.
And the reason is for a legal issue on the Star Bond project.
Second.
You made the motion.
I made that was the motion,
Okay.
yes.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the executive session for 20 minutes. It'll end at 1:40. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Start in 2 minutes.
In case Channel 8 didn't hear, the mayor announced that we're back into regular session and that there was no action taken. Next item 10, I need to double check with you. See, there's a gap right there, is that intentional? There's no 2,800, so B is gonna be 2,800?
Yes.
Okay. The, item 10A, the governing body is asked to review and approve the resolution regarding the Sports of the World bond project. Let me get to that part on this agenda, please. If approved, it would be Resolution 2799, authorizing private placement sale of City of Garden City, Kansas sales tax special obligation revenue bonds specifically for the Sports of the World Star Bond Project Series 2019. The city created a Star Bond District on November 4th, 2014. Since that time, the proposed project for the district has evolved. The City Commission approved the Sports of the World project plan for the district on October 17th, 2017. Then on January 17th, 2018, the Secretary of the Kansas Department of Commerce approved issuance of sales tax special obligation bonds, or STAR bonds, for the project in the amount of $25,400,000, exclusive of approved financing costs. The City Commission authorized the city manager to select a placement agent to facilitate private placement of STAR bonds. After interviewing 3 financial firms, the city manager selected Cruz and Associates to act as a placement agent. Michael Lambert from Cruz and Associates has worked with 2 sophisticated financial institutions who have agreed, subject to certain conditions, to purchase the STAR bonds as a private placement, each taking 50% of the total principal amount of the bonds. The offers from these firms are attached and are identical. The offered interest rate compares very favorably to rates on recently issued STAR bonds in both Dodge City and Salina. The interest rate will be held until March 28, 2019, which I believe is the anticipated date of closing. This resolution recites the history of the STAR bond process and the recital paragraphs, and authorizes the placement agent, the city manager, the finance director, the city attorney, and the bond counsel to proceed with the necessary steps to complete the private placement issuance of the STAR bonds. It also authorizes the mayor to execute the commitment letters and a purchase agreement for the STAR bonds, subject to the following parameters. First, the aggregate principal amount of the bonds will not exceed $31 million. Then the true interest cost does not exceed 5%. Finally, receipt of approval of the Secretary of Commerce. An ordinance authorizing the STAR bonds and all necessary documents to complete issuance of the STAR bonds is expected to be on your next City Commission meeting agenda, March 19th. Your alternatives are to approve the resolution as presented or deny. Staff recommends approval.
Mayor, I
Any
make
other-
a motion that we approve Resolution 2799-2019.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2799-2019, authorizing the placement, sale of the City Garden City sales tax special obligation revenue bonds for the Sports of the World Star Bond Project, Series 2019. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Very good.
Item B, 10B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a motor vehicle nuisance resolution. If approved, it would be Resolution 2800-2019. Specifically, it's for the removal of a tan Mercury Grand Marquis and a red Chevy Silverado at 1105 East Mary. Caleb?
Yes, as you have in your packets, this resolution for the removal of the motor vehicle nuisance vehicles located, and this is just for your information and the public's information, this is with the amendment that was made a few months ago for the resolution regarding vehicles, which in the resolution states within a 12-month period of the date of the order issued under authority of section 3862, should the city or person abated the described nuisance condition by removal of motor vehicle, then the motor vehicle is returned to the same premise, resulting in the same nuisance condition. The city may proceed to abate the nuisance conditions pursuant to 3663 without the issuance of a new resolution or order.
Mr. Kentner, what's the problem with the pickup? Is it undrivable? I can't tell what the tag.
It's not tagged.
Oh, it's
The
an
tag's
expired tag.
expired. It may or may not be operable as well. We don't,
Okay.
it's kind of hard to tell. But for sure the tags are expired.
Thank you.
And they were both located at 1105 East Mary, that's what I couldn't figure out, because it looks like two different residents.
Yes, I believe that is.
Is one of them an outbuilding?
It
Yes.
says both of them are 1105 East Mary.
Yeah,
Yes.
the siding looks different, doesn't it?
Entertain a motion to approve resolution 2800, 2019. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2800-2019 for a motor vehicle nuisance. All those in, any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Item 10C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a motor vehicle nuisance resolution, which if approved would be number 2801-2019. The property affected is 901 Herald. It's for the abatement of a white Volkswagen Corrado.
And this is very similar to the last case, as a motor vehicle nuisance resolution for the removal of 901 Harold Avenue.
I move that we approve resolution number 2801-2019.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2801-2019 for motor vehicle nuisance. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks. No old business.
There's no old business. Item 12A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve renewal of the facility use agreement between Full Scope Training LLC and the City of Garden City.
Okay. Chief.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Full Scope Training LLC has a need for a classroom and firearm range to conduct courses approved by the National Rifle Association. The City of Garden City would like to extend the use of the police department's training room and firearm range to facilitate such courses. If approved, the facility use agreement would be in effect for 12 months, but may not be used more than 8 times during the term of the agreement. Full Scope Training LLC agrees to carry general liability insurance within the limits stated in the agreement, and this agreement is a renewal from last year as well. The alternatives are to approve the attached agreement or reject the attached agreement, and staff recommends the governing body to approve the attached agreement between Full Scope Training LLC and the City of Garden City.
I have a couple of questions. In looking at the agreement, certainly it speaks a lot about insurance and indemnity and, if something is damaged. But I guess I had 2 questions. One, the age range, and I don't know what NRI particular courses they intend. And I realize we're just trying to extend a safe place for this to happen, and I encourage that. But what age range would be participating out there? Because I think it's different if it's all adults versus minors. And then what kind of weaponry would be used?
It would be all adults, and the only weapons allotted at the range would be the, in this agreement, I believe it's the handguns only.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the renewal of the facilities use agreement between Full Scope Training LLC and the City of Garden City.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the rental agreement or use agreement between Full Scopes Training and City Garden City. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks.
Item 12B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve one appointment to the Park and Tree Advisory Board. Andy?
Good afternoon again. If you recall, I believe it was December, I approached you about Park and Tree Board where we had some issues with staggering of the number of seats and when they would come vacant each year. And so we're back addressing this one more time. And we have interviewed, or I have interviewed, Ann Case. She has volunteered to be on the Park and Tree Board and knows that we're looking for a 2-year term, and so she's in agreement with that. So the Park and Tree Board staff, or the Park and Tree Board, excuse me, I discussed this issue with them again at our last advisory board meeting, and they said to move forward with it. And so after interviewing with her, she's interested and we're interested, and then we will be full board if you guys
All
bring it
right.
on. So,
I really appreciate her statement on the number 8, where she talks about loving this town and the generation, how she's lived here. That was really encouraging, and so that was exciting. So I would move that we approve Ann Case for the seat on the Park and Tree Board.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Ann Case to the Park and Tree Advisory Board. Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving right along here.
Yeah, I think we're ready for 12C. That's the consent agenda, and unless you want to remove an item to discuss it, the appropriate motion would be to approve the consent agenda, items C1 through 5.
I do want to just make a mention on what they talked about, what Mr. Curran put together, the 2019 vehicle purchase. I really appreciate that it was organized in the information. That really
Made
helped
it
a lot
easy.
in the understanding. Yeah, so I appreciate that, and also the bid process was very transparent, so I really like that.
Thanks.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items C1 through 5. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Commission reports, Commissioner Cessna.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Commissioner Underwood.
For those of you who, again, I love how much is going on in Garden City. Avita was recently at the high school. It was an amazing, so yeah, it was an amazing performance. And I think there are really a lot of those things that happen in Garden City that, I know we all work full jobs and there's lots of times it's hard to get out, but I'll tell you, attending some of the really great events around Garden City, I'm excited about the Chamber of Commerce banquet, or what is that? Annual banquet, and also the speakers. So I think there's lots of really great things going around in Garden City. And Case's statement that, she loves Garden City, America. And if you ever search Garden City, you realize there's more than just one Garden City. It's not just Kansas. So I think that's, that sentiment that really carries forward, that there's really some great things happening in Garden City. I'm excited about hearing about the big pool. There's been a lot of talk around town and lots of opinions about what we should do, which is exciting. So I think the process is really working, and I really appreciate I know it's been a lot of energy and effort for the process, but the amount of engagement with our community, I think that's what we're here for. So I'm excited and nervous about the decisions, that we're going to be making in the long term. But I'm excited that we actually had a process, and I think it's really a model for other cities when they have something that's this valuable for them to really consider. So I just want to say thank you to the city staff, and if there, like I said, if there's something on the radar and you, no matter what, don't be too tired, just get up and go. So there's some really great stuff happening.
Good. Commissioner Burns.
Well, I'm ready for spring. No, I think this is, we're buried under snow. It is exciting to look forward towards spring and spring cleanup and all the things that are coming down. And I really appreciate Mr. Curran's department and all the work done and all the snow removal.
So it, especially for the safety aspect of being able to get around town and people getting to work and school and places they need to go, they did an exceptional job. And I also want to thank everyone who participated in the CIP program. That's a large time commitment, also Mr. Kern's department, but all the departments in the city and staff. And we had a nice presentation on that I think gives us some good direction. And I was really pleasantly surprised seeing how some of the issues that were brought to the forefront and that citizens are concerned about and willing to put some money behind. And I think that that's exciting. And as I was thinking about spring cleanup when we finally dig out, I do think I was excited to see that expansion of recycling programs made that list, because that's important to me and a value I'm trying to teach my family. And I think as a community, we value that. And I was mentioning to Mr. Griselle, back before there was snow on the ground, I was over at the Lake Forest Park, and the number of plastic bags that I picked up just in my very short time running, because I'm not a long-distance runner, but my short time over there was about 15 to 20 bags. And I think we look across at other communities that are going towards plastic bag bans, and I know that was something that was brought up here 10 years ago. It's something we should look at again, because I think it aids it very much is part of the beauty of our city, and maintaining the parks and maintaining just the beauty of our community that we all try and participate in. So that's something I'd like to look at a little bit closer as we move through our agenda items.
Okay, thank you.
If that could come up sometime, I'd appreciate it.
Good pre-meeting. I thought they covered that well, and it's a very important process, and something that we will be discussing at our retreat, which is tomorrow at about 8.
That's right, 8:30 is, I believe, the official start time.
Right.
There will be
coffee and donuts.
Coffee and
That's a hard 8:30, huh?
Yeah.
Jennifer, not just donuts.
8-ish. So public is certainly welcome to attend and watch. It's a workshop for the commission, and probably last until maybe 4 o'clock.
Okay.
FinUp Center, sorry if that wasn't mentioned. FinUp Center's Conservation for Education, the big room.
I read the proclamation for Read Across America at Al Brown School last Friday, to about 300 kids. That was interesting. All of them were in a perfect line.
Wow.
And very well organized, and so that was fun. Citizens Academy, I'd like to put out a shout for that. We need a few more people to sign up. So if you hear this message, I hope that you'll consider that. If you really want to know how the city functions, that's a great opportunity to learn about your city. I did hear some good compliments on the snow removal again, so Sam, thank you. Pass that on to the troops, and this was somebody that lived at Southwind, but it worked for as much snow as we've had this year. We appreciate that. That's all I have. I think if there's nothing else, we're adjourned at 2 o'clock.
My goodness, Mayor, that was
How
lightning
about
round.
that?
That is
That's a record.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep.